Hey, you guys! Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Killjoy Guide, the Left Feminist podcast for the 99%. I'm your host, Killjoy Meg. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you guys here. My first live stream with brand new internet. I am so excited to have everybody here. And I am excited to welcome our guest for this evening. She is the co-host of Facts on the Ground, the host of Bitch with Comrade Misty, and she also does vigils for Julian Assange. Please welcome to the show, Comrade Misty.
Hey, Misty. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be your, first official guest with your new internet and everything. Yes, I know what it's like to have bad internet, so I'm very excited for you.
Yes, it is. I'm so excited to have new internet. This is the best.
It really, seriously, this is like completely ridiculous and off topic, but I recently had the same problem, and it feels amazing when you finally have decent internet. Like it's such a weight lifted. It is, seriously. Sleepy Josh went through it with me, and my husband was a legit champ. Like he was on the phone all the time trying to figure out how to get me better internet. So I feel awesome. You. It's great. It's fantastic.
That's a good husband right there.
Yes.
All right, quick shout outs. Oh, Charlie Mack. Welcome, Charlie. Welcome to the show, you guys. Thanks, Charlie. Robin, always a constant watcher. Yeah. We love you, Robin. Thank you. All right. Deep Moody Purple Blues.
I recognize
long time no see.
Yeah.
Long time no see. I was just on the round table. So yeah, definitely short time no see. Hey, Christian, welcome to the show. It's good to have you. And our good friend, Matt. All right, guys. All right, so definitely keep those chats and super chats coming. We're going to be talking all about why free speech is a feminist issue. Let's be real. But free speech is the cornerstone of everything that we're doing here, guys. Like, we could not do what we're doing right now without free speech. Like, just think about the fact that we had women, when they were trying to fight for our right to vote, being locked up for their activism, being force-fed with tubes, you know? So we wouldn't have any of these rights without free speech. So this is an important thing that we're going to be talking about today. Yeah, so we have Brown Bathrobe. Hey, from Canada. I'm also Canadian. So welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. So Missy, right off the bat, let's talk free speech. Why is free speech so important?
I had to get ready. There's going to be rants.
I know you're in a fighting mood, and I'm here for it.
Maybe we should warn people. I am a little fired up today. Like, I'm just having a bad day where I hate everybody. So don't mind me. I'm a little extra saucy. But yeah, so I preach about this all the time. Free speech, and they're trying to take it away from us. They're like, actively, daily, they're trying to take this ability away from us. Look at all the anti-protest laws they have going on. Look at the treatment of journalists at protests, the way that they're treated, the way that they're photographed now and put into like some app so that they can be tracked. What the fuck is that shit? You know, like, sorry, I'm sorry, I shouldn't cuss.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. I always forget and cuss on other people's shows, and I'm like, maybe that's not good.
No, I am a sailor. People can tell you.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, and free speech, every issue that you care about is dependent upon free speech. Meg already said it, but and I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. I mean, if you are fighting for Medicare for all, I always give this example. There's a whistleblower who used to work for health insurance lobbyists, and he wrote propaganda, and he misinformed the American public about the Canadian healthcare system. And that's a huge part of the reason why we don't have Medicare for all. And so the narrative control that happens directly impacts every single issue that you're fighting for. Education, the environment, all of it. If you cannot effectively combat propaganda, get your information out there, have legitimate conversations, inform and educate people, you're never going to win anything. So it really is kind of the front line for everything, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I brought up the example of, the suffragettes going to prison. We see, even right now, we see water protectors going to jail for fighting for their right to clean water. And let me bring that up. So quick intro. We have, you know what? I have the wrong links up. I have it on a different, I had all these things on.
This happens to me all the time.
I have like multiple windows open.
Yeah.
So it was on the wrong window.
Whoops-a-daisy.
All right, let me bring this up. Okay. But so we have Jessica Reseznik and Ruby Montoya, who were water protectors fighting against DAPL. And they were charged with damaging the equipment with DAPL. And so they're both charged back in like 2017. So let me bring this up here. Share screen. So I'm just kind of talking about it. Here we go. So Jessica Reseznik, she was just very recently sentenced. Ruby Montoya has not been sentenced yet, but Jessica got 8 years. She got 8 years for.
I have to laugh or I'll cry.
I know.
So ridiculous.
No, I completely agree. She got 8 years, guys, in jail. So it says environmentalists in recent days have expressed outrage over the 8-year prison sentence handed to Jessica Reseznik, a nonviolent water protector who pled guilty to damaging equipment at the Dakota Access Pipeline in Iowa, while calling the fossil fuel companies who knowingly caused the climate emergency the real criminals who should be held accountable. I agree.
We live in the upside down.
Oh. We do.
This is
like,
unreal. How are we not
charging them for poisoning our water instead of charging water protectors? You're right. We live in the upside down.
We do. This makes no sense whatsoever.
And the U.S. District Court judge sentenced Jessica to 8 years and $3.2 million in restitution. And 3 years post prison supervised release, the 39-year-old activist pled guilty to a single count of damaging an energy facility. 8 years, $3.2 million in restitution.
And that's coming for all of us.
That's
coming for all of us. Yeah. Yes, the oil companies that knowingly caused climate change, that knowingly caused damage to the environment and poison people. Come on, they're never held accountable. I mean, Robbie Yeager's been covering the Colonial Pipeline spill. Was a gas leak. It's like at least 1.2 million gallons. It's one of the largest leaks in history. Nobody's talking about it. And there's never gonna. They just came out and like very quietly said, nope, there's not going to be any like real punishment. We're going to give you like a list of things you need to get in ship shape, we're watching you, that kind of thing. But it's like a slap on the wrist. That's all that they get. And then now if you're an activist who cares about the fact that we may not have clean water for very much longer, then you're going to have to spend 8 years in prison for fighting back. That's insanity. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. But it's like this in every situation. We're going to talk about a multitude of people today, but it's no different. It's no different than the fact that Daniel Hale is currently he just spent his birthday in prison. Barack Obama is spending his 60th birthday surrounded by like 500 celebrities and billionaires. And Daniel Hale exposed the fact that Barack Obama committed mass murder and war crimes on a grand scale. And that's completely ass backwards. We punish our truth tellers and we let the legitimate criminals roam free. George W. Bush is dancing on Ellen and Julian Assange is in prison. What the fuck? What is that? No, that's no society.
Or in just another egregious case, Steve Donziger, who I'm still kind of flabbergasted. He just got found guilty on like how many counts of obstruction? I think it's like 6 or 8.
I think I don't know. I have so much of that in my head. And that's not one, honestly, that's not one I've been following super closely because I'm dealing with a lot.
Yeah. But so here's the story of Steve Donziger, you guys, is that Steve Donziger is an environmental activist and a lawyer who represented the people of Ecuador against Exxon because Exxon poisoned their water. And so just recently, and they won. But now Exxon decided to charge Steve Donziger with obstruction. They had their judge who was paid off by Exxon. He wanted to charge Steve Donziger. The prosecutors did not want to charge Steve Donziger, so the judge brought in corporate lawyers from Exxon to prosecute Steve Donziger, and he was recently found guilty of those obstruction charges. We have corporations who are charging us with crimes now. This is not the state versus Steve Donziger. This is Exxon versus Steve Donziger.
Mm-hmm.
This should have been a civil suit. This should not have been a criminal suit. This is insanity. And now I hope that he gets time served, but the fact that he will probably be disbarred for this.
The fact that he faces anything, like a damn thing other than like a thank you and a medal, maybe. I don't know. I'm weird about like medals and statues. I don't know. That's all weird to me. But like certainly some gratitude and appreciation and maybe some admiration, but it's completely bass backwards in this country. We penalize, and it's always been this way. I don't think it's just this country. I think it's human history. We punish truth tellers. We get mad at the people who tell us the wrongdoings of the people who are oppressing us for whatever reason. I wish we could figure that out and like fix it, because it's not a good thing. It's not a good trait to have.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You are right on that. Okay, so quickly, a couple comments. So Jess JC says, I noticed on social media if I as a woman respond to a sexist comment, my post gets taken down in suspension, but reporting the sexist comment comes back does not violate terms. And that's very much, the system. That's the hegemony, that's okay. But good job of being a killjoy of actually calling it out. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is true. I mean, and let's be real, is that being a sexist asshole is not against your freedom of speech, but you're an asshole. We should absolutely.
You should be called out for being an asshole. Yeah. Just because we have free speech doesn't mean that also means that I get to call you out when I think that you're a douche canoe. I mean,
absolutely.
And that's okay. And if I'm a douche canoe and you call me out, and okay. But
we can have that conversation. Yeah.
Sure.
Katie Halper is live and I'd rather be here. Shh. What? Well, I love Katie. I love Katie Halper, but thank you for being here.
I like Katie. She's great on Assange. Shout out to Katie Halper.
She is.
She's been great on Assange. I appreciate her. I probably don't say it enough. I get bogged down with the people who piss me off for not covering Assange, so sometimes I don't always give enough props. I'm working on it. Yeah, she's great on Assange.
Okay, so let's see. We got deep, moody, purple blues. Like when a farmer kills a coyote and hangs it from a tree in the field to scare off other coyotes, a chilling effect. That is true. And I feel like Steve Donziger and Jessica Resesnick, Ruby Montoya, they're the coyotes in this situation. Or they're the perceived coyotes. They're not really coyotes because they're nonviolent. They're doing the right thing. Like a coyote is coming into your field.
Yeah, but you're still messing with their profit. To them, that's a threat. Like nonviolent or not, they don't care. That's a threat. If you come at them in any way, they will come for you. You know what they will come for you hard. I mean, it's the same thing like they did with Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. You're used. I always call Julian Assange, he's the proverbial head on the stake. Like he is he's the warning to other journalists. If you come for us, this is what we're going to do to you. Because he's the first journalist that will be charged under the Espionage Act. He's facing 175 years in ADX Florence. And that's a warning shot. And they're doing it publicly enough so that enough journalists know what's happening. And it's already had a super huge chilling effect. So that's what they do.
It's the same with Jessica Resesnick. She got charged under the Domestic Extremist Act. And so she was only supposed to get 4 years. It got doubled because of the action. And we'll definitely talk. Yeah, we'll talk more on that in a little bit. But so go ahead and explain, what is it exactly that Julian Assange's case really lays out, particularly for journalistic free speech?
I can't stress how big this is. I get it that I can sometimes be overly dramatic and expressive. Okay. But it is very serious because this will be the first time that a journalist is charged under the Espionage Act. So that automatically is precedent setting. And we've already seen that there's always been a kind of an attack on free speech and especially press freedom. Powerful people do not like their shit exposed. So they're going to actively fight to prevent that from happening. So since the invention of press freedom and free speech, speech, the powerful people are going to try to fight back against it in whatever way possible. But like over the past 10 or 15 years, it really started under Obama. If you don't know, Obama prosecuted more whistleblowers and journalists than all other presidents combined. So it really started to ramp up. Particularly bad under Obama. It had been kind of like on a steady progression, but he really like stepped on the fucking gas pedal. And then of course Trump is, you know, he is who he is. And so he, you know, he's the one that had Julian Assange arrested, which even Barack Obama wouldn't do. And Barack Obama is not a friend of press freedom. I mean, he claimed he was going to be like the transparency president. He was like, there was none of that. there was none of that.
Right.
And so, you know, so this really does set like a really crazy precedent, and it really is kind of this turning point really in human history. We could go down one of two paths. And I mean, I know that the word fascism gets thrown around a lot and it's lost really all meaning entirely at this point. But I mean, that is literal fascism. I mean, that is one of the first things that fascists attack is free speech, press freedom. They want to control the narrative. And that's what's happening really on a global scale right now. You know, empire, the United States in specific, but also the UK, if you know what the UK is doing right now, they have the Special Secrets Act, which could see journalists spending 14 years in prison for embarrassing the government. That's not a lie. I'm not making that up. That's a real thing that they're considering right now. They just put Craig Murray in jail. He's the first journalist to be charged in contempt of court in Scotland in 70 years and in the UK in 50 years. So I'm not making this stuff up. It's happening across the globe, and it's really empire, but the United States is really like kind of the most specific and most egregious violator. But yeah, the UK is definitely on board. Australia is definitely on board. Like all of the Western states, there's a legitimate effort to have global jurisdiction over information and journalism. So again, I know that sounds dramatic, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, and even if you want to frame it in a different way and I've heard this framing done as well, I believe by Assange's fiance, is that even if you were to take that into consideration, but also the fact that, you know, in the West, we're always complaining about, you know, Russia, China, you know, locking up their dissidents. Like, and they're going to use this. They're going to use Julian Assange. They're going to use Craig Murray.
They already are.
Say, exactly. Like, oh, you want to yell at us for locking up our dissidents. Well, you can't yell at us anymore because you're doing the exact same thing.
Have you seen the video of the president of Azerbaijan? Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the president of Azerbaijan, who is, listen, if you guys know anything about the country, they are terrible to their journalists. This is no joke. They're like, he's not a good dude. Okay. But what he did in this video clip is amazing. I've watched it more times than I care to admit. It's glorious because he is sitting in front of a BBC reporter who's trying to drill him on his treatment of journalists. And he said, oh, you want to talk about how we treat our journalists? Where's Julian Assange right now? And I'm like, yes, they're already doing it. And it's not just him. We're seeing the kind of snowball effect where other countries who have legitimately terrible records on press freedom and the way that they treat journalists, no question about it. But now, because we're setting the precedent that it's okay, like this is a normal thing. They're now throwing it back in our faces and being like, I don't want to hear about it. Where's Julian Assange? And honestly, I hate that that's happening, but at the same time, I'm really loving to see it because that's going to help really shift a lot of opinion, I think. When the president of Azerbaijan can get in your face and be like, oh, really? You have a problem you need to address. That should never be a thing that they can throw back at you, you know, somebody like that, a country like that. Absolutely. You know, it's 100%. Really terrible. Yeah. So yeah, they're already using it.
All right. And I'm pulling up that video. So
yeah, you should.
Let's see.
It's really fantastic. I could have pulled it up too, I guess. Sorry.
That was all good.
Yeah, it's a BBC reporter, I think. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I used to know it, but it's a really funny video.
Okay, they only had the transcripts. Let me see if I can find the video.
Oh, I can try to find it too.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it. Okay. Let me bring this up here.
It's so good. I'm excited. And watch for her facial expressions too. Mm-hmm. Makes her very uncomfortable. I love it.
Okay, does everyone see it? Everyone see this? I
see it. Okay, I don't know. Yeah.
Why the people in Azerbaijan do not have free media and opposition? because this is what I'm told by independent sources in this country.
Which independent sources?
Many independent sources.
Tell me which.
I certainly couldn't name sources.
Oh, if you couldn't name, that means that you're just inventing the story.
So you're saying the media is not under state control?
Not at all.
I mean, NGOs are the subject of a crackdown. Journalists are the subject of a crackdown.
Not at all.
Critics are in jail.
No, not at all.
None of this is true.
Absolutely fake. Absolutely. We have free media. We have free internet. And the number of internet users in Azerbaijan is more than 80%. Can you imagine the restriction of media in a country where internet is free, there is no censorship, and there are 80% of internet users? This is, again, a biased approach. This is an attempt to create a perception in Western audience about Azerbaijan. We have opposition, we have NGOs, we have free political activity, we have free media, we have freedom of speech. But if you raise this question, can I ask you also one? How do you assess what happened to Mr. Assange? Is it a reflection of free media in your country? Let's talk about Assange. How many years he spent in Ecuadorian embassy? And for what? And where is he now? For journalistic activity. You kept that person hostage, actually killing him morally and physically. You did it, not us, and now he's in prison. So you have no moral right to talk about free media when you do these things.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I want to stand up and give him a goddamn standing ovation. Everything he said right there is true. And listen, I said, he is a bad guy, and he is a bad guy. Listen, for the record, I think you can't really get to a position of authority or power in this world and not be a certain level of psychopath. Like, you have to be a certain level of off your rocker to even want that job. So yeah, but all state leaders are probably terrible people. But the fact that he's able to throw that back on her, and yes, where is Julian Assange? What have you done to Julian Assange? The man has been subjected to psychological torture for over a decade. Like, that's not me making that up. That is he's been assessed by a multitude of doctors. The UN Special Rapporteur on Torture has had him independently evaluated by a multitude of doctors. They've come to yes, he is a victim of torture, has been for over a decade. And for what? He says it there. For what? He exposed war crimes. That's all he did. That's all that really pissed them off. It's not just that. Because he's also exposed the CIA, he's also exposed corporations, he's also exposed other foreign governments, including Russia, just so you know. He serves as a real threat. And that's not to say that, I wish that there were 1,000 WikiLeaks across the globe. I wish that
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was like a perfect world, well, we wouldn't need, people would just not be, assholes. But, if we're going to have positions of power and then we need to have people holding them accountable across the board, just everywhere. And Julian Assange, he's never gotten it wrong. That's what is amazing to me. He's never been wrong. He's never had to retract a single word that he's published. They've been around for nearly 15 years, I think. I used to know exactly how many documents and how many words they had published. When it was their 10-year anniversary, I think it was 10 years, 10 million documents and something else. I don't remember. But they've never had to retract a single word. And what they offer, and what I find extremely valuable, is that they offer its source documentation. So it's not like Chris Cuomo and a bunch of talking heads on a panel, feeding you propaganda. He just shows you the source documentation. Here are the emails. Here are the cables. Here are the whatever it is. Here's the email list. Here's the whatever it is. Here it is. You examine it, you figure out what you think about this. But this is behind the scenes, seriously, it's like publicly relevant information about people in positions of power. Here's the documentation. You do it makes journalism as much as a science as I think is humanly possible, which is invaluable.
100%. Yeah. All right, really quick. So Christine, thank you so much for the super sticker. Municipal Ecology, thank you so much for the super chat. Could you please have someone from the Seriously Wrong podcast or the Institute for Social Ecology on? They offer inspiring solutions. I will definitely keep that in mind. I will have to write that down. Seriously Wrong podcast and the Institute for Social Ecology.
You're probably going to forget.
I'm probably going to forget. You'll probably have to remind me.
I always do that. Yeah, just I always do that.
But I mean, it is priceless because they really, they have no real concept in their mind. They think that they are the media, and all they're doing is just, parroting talking points from like the CIA. It's like, I'm sorry, the CIA, who is overthrowing countries and doing all this shady shit, you really think that they're the most reliable source for what exactly is going on?
Well, they do, though, because in this country, we've managed to convince a lot of people that the intelligence agencies are our friends. And that's been a really weird thing for me to watch, like the so-called left, like want to buddy up with intelligence agencies. That's really weird. Like that, like the way that the quote unquote left just kind of turned their back on free speech. That's weird to me. The turn away from like anti-authoritarianism, anti-imperialism. Like it seems like there's been a drastic shift. And that's not to say that it's the actual left, because I think that those people are just, I call them hipster liberals. They think that they're left, but I think it's just Bernie Sanders made it cool to like consider yourself left. But I think a lot of these people are just liberals, and they just don't know it. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's been a huge shift toward, or like away from a lot of the things that I thought that the left really thought was important. I mean, that's just, maybe it's my idealized version of what the left was, but.
Right, because like they smear people who are on the left. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
But they smear people on the left as Assangists.
I love that though, honestly.
What?
The first time I saw that on Twitter, because it was the funniest tweet, honestly, the funniest tweet, because somebody was talking about Assad, or no, somebody was talking about Tulsi or something. And so the guy called me an Assangeist. And first of all, I'm like, oh, I love that. But then I thought, what if this person thinks that like Assad is Assange? Because it was Tulsi, and there was something about the conversation that I was like, what if? Because I really don't think that he meant Assangeist. I think, and I asked because I was like super curious. But he never responded. And I desperately still, if it was you, I want to like, let me know. Like, I'm not going to make fun of you. I just need to know if you really didn't think, like, if there was two people in your mind and you just, I don't know, because it was funny. But yeah, Assange's, I saw that and I'm like, I need that on a shirt. Like, that's the best. I'm an Assangeist. Fuck yeah, I am.
Right. I almost want to like just have that on a shirt and just like walk around like, yes, I'm a free speech advocate. Yeah. I want Julian Assange and other journalists to be freed.
I would like accountable government and the end to war crimes and imperialism and spying.
So much
the spy program. Like this is what Julian Assange exposes. Corporate corruption. I would like to end that. That's what Julian Assange helps expose. Of course I'm an Assangeist. Why aren't you? You know, like, are you that much of a bootlicker that this is what drives me nuts too, is that a lot of people, and I should be patient with people because there's been a lot of propaganda thrown at Julian Assange. There's been a decade-long smear campaign against this dude to destroy him, to dehumanize him, to villainize him. Like, they've really turned him into like a comic book villain at this point, right? They've thrown hacker and terrorist and rapist and what else do they call him? Just literally fucking everything, right? A traitor, which is my favorite because he's not even American. So yeah, it's just they've launched this whole smear campaign against this dude, and then it's really hard to combat against that. But it's still it makes me really frustrated because it doesn't matter even if like the worst thing that you've heard about Julian Assange is true, if like all of the worst things, he could be like the worst person on planet Earth, and I would still fight against what's happening to him. Because it's fucking wrong and it's really dangerous and it's terrifying and it puts us down a path that I don't want. These rights were not easy to get in the first place, and we're handing them away, and getting them back is going to be damn near impossible. And it's really frustrating to watch otherwise intelligent human beings fail to recognize that, and just not see how willingly we are handing over these rights, and it will be damn near impossible to get them back, in my opinion.
Right. No, absolutely. Because I mean, we see it right now. Like, you've been talking about, people who who would call themselves, socialists or social democrats or whatever it is that they want. Progressives. I don't even know what
labels are stupid.
I know. Absolutely.
Really
but I mean, in the long run, it's like the way that they're framing all of this, and the way that they're even calling on private companies like Facebook and Twitter to crack down on free speech. It's like, guys, you realize that this is not just, they're not just going to go after,
And they're not
white
private
supremacists.
companies. I know that technically, legally, Facebook and Twitter may be private companies.
Mhm.
They are fully ingrained in our government. There's no question about it. They, how much lobbying dollars do they spend? How many politicians do they own? They sit on the boards of like the Atlantic Council, which helps dictate to Facebook who gets free speech and who doesn't. Henry Kissinger sits on that board. And you're telling me that they're private companies? No, they are fully involved in our government, 100%. And so we need to stop that narrative, because I get it. Yes, technically and legally, but we need to flip that script, because they shouldn't have the level of control that they do over speech and dialogue and all, like, information. Again, that's like legit fascism. You have corporations combined with government. There is no gray area. They are fully intermeshed. And that's really scary.
Right. As Serena Blood says, big tech is the government.
Yes.
100%. There is so much bleeding over. I mean, even the fact, just think about the fact that Barack Obama's, I think it was his chief of staff, now works for either Amazon or Google. It's one of the two. I think it's Amazon.
Kamala Harris's old communications director, her current communications director, used to work at Twitter, or something like that.
Her brother-in-law works at Uber.
Yeah, it's like a giant cesspool of like revolving doors of corruption. Like it's like they just slide around in their little like slimy, you know what I mean? And they're all connected, and it's not good. It's not good. The level of power tech companies have right now. They took a sitting president off the internet entirely, like Pinterest.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like everybody. And listen, I do not like Donald Trump. I hate that I even have to preface this with saying that. I'm so tired of the baby brain dipshits who don't understand nuance, and that there's multitudes of layers on these issues. I don't like Donald Trump. He's an absolute twat waffle. Like, he's gross. He makes my skin crawl. No, he's awful. But he's a sitting president, and they wiped him off the internet entirely. And the left cheered. Like, they were thrilled that Donald Trump got taken off the internet. That's horrible. And what drives me nuts is that it's not like we don't have historical reference for this. They always start with the most reviled thing possible to manufacture consent for like broadening the scope. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why they start with Alex Jones, because everybody hates Alex Jones. He's an asshole. Like, even the people that like Alex Jones hate Alex Jones.
Right. It's like there's that very famous quote. It's like, first they came for the communists, and I didn't care because I was a communist. Because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't care because I wasn't Jewish. It just keeps on going and going and going until finally it's you. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're trying to fight against, guys. It's like, because we can talk about this in just a moment with the domestic violence extremism, that whole thing. But, as Lila said, like, I'm about to mark a dumb left. Like, they like to call us a dumb left when we're the ones calling this shit out. And it's like, I'm sorry, maybe you're the dumb left.
Yes.
If you're not calling it out.
I don't like labels, but it pisses me off, honestly, that these people call themselves left. You're not left. If you're like imperialist and you cheer on like coups and regime change, and you're anti-free speech, yes, you know who you are. We all know who you are. It's not worth it to like make a big fight over who calls themselves left, because again, I just really hate labels. They're completely, what a label means to me might be completely different than what it means to you. Like, everybody has their own interpretation, and so like, you can toss labels at me all day long, I don't give a shit. But it's not worth the fight. But it really does annoy me that some of these people call themselves left. It really does. Like, there are some people who I'm like, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're pushing CIA propaganda on your news show, and you're going to call yourself a leftist? That's not a thing.
And smearing other journalists.
Yeah.
Like, are you
actually
kidding?
Anti-imperialist journalists? And those journalists also have their faults too. But we see you. Yeah. We see your shtick, and it's gross, frankly.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, I just saw a good one. Where did it go?
First they came for the journalists. We don't know what happened after that. Yeah. Jesse Jett wrote an amazing song called Conviction about a winter in Belmarsh. It's about Julian Assange, actually. And one of the
French lips. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah. One of the lines in it is human rights are mutable and Julian is proof. I'm forgetting the one line. And the next something, and the next voice silence might be you. And that's That's what it is. They're legit. They're not trying to silence Julian Assange. I mean, they are. But it's not really about silencing Julian Assange. It's so much bigger than that. It's about silencing everybody.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that we don't have. Yes.
He's the patsy.
Yeah. He's the mechanism they're using to move forward on that part of their agenda. And again, this impacts everything. So this will seriously make your ability to be effective on all other issues and activism a lot more difficult. A lot more difficult.
Exactly.
If you can't protest and if you can't like educate people on where you stand on the issue that you're trying to fight for, how are you gonna do anything? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm really trying to break it down as simple as it needs to be, because that's where we're headed. And there's a lot of things I would really like to be able to fight for. You know? And we're gonna lose that.
Like, and I don't know about you, but like I'm so sick and tired of the tone policing. Like every single time, like, and I even get it from like my own family members. It's like, oh, you know what? You use a cuss word. You use a cuss word.
My family gave up.
Your entire argument is bunk because you use a cuss word. Like, fuck you.
My grandpa,
come on.
my grandpa would just like toss up an eyebrow, like, what was that? You know, my family gave up a long time on that. Gave up a long time ago on that. Yeah. No, but there's a lot, especially my favorite is the people who are telling us now that we have to be nice to politicians if we want to get anything done. When has being been when? Oh my God.
I am so sick of that argument
one time that just being like, we just got to be nice and kiss their ass and then maybe they'll do what we want. We tried that shit. They aren't doing anything for you. Nothing. I want somebody. Seriously, I'm still waiting. What have they done for you? Like, even with this whole eviction moratorium, sorry, we're getting a little bit off topic here.
Yeah,
even with this eviction moratorium bullshit that they just pulled, that's not even a win. That's an insult. First of all, they came in late to fight for some shit that they knew about like forever ago, but certainly a month ago. They didn't do shit about it. Then they tried to pass the buck and say that it was because, the White House didn't address the Congress about the issue. Then you bring it up. Where were you? Like, there was no like tweet storms about it. There was no like, hey guys, we need to start contact. There was no effort at all until last minute. That's how you know it's a psyop, y'all. I mean, it was so staged. This shit was so staged, and they didn't get you shit. They got you 60 more days, maybe, for only like potentially 90% of the country. And it's based on COVID numbers too. So if your COVID number goes down, then what? That you lose that money. It's just kicking the can down the road. It doesn't solve the problem. People are still going to owe money that you didn't cancel the rent. People are still going to owe now more, another 60 days worth of rent. And you didn't do shit about it. You didn't solve the problem. All you did was put a Band-Aid on a dead body. And people want me to cheer for that. I'm not cheering for that. I'm not going to be nice to those people. They don't deserve it. Like, they told us they were going in there to fucking fight, like flip tables, bring the ruckus, right? What happened to that shit? There's none of that. And people are suffering. They get mad at me because I get fired up and I'm mad. Fuck yes, I'm pissed off. I'm tired of seeing people suffer. How about that? I'm tired of seeing them suffer while AOC and the squad have their like Chinese takeout nights, their girls' nights. Fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm done. Sorry. I got a little ranty there, but I told you I was fired up before.
No.
So
I love it. You know I love it.
Yeah. No, but I'm like especially ranty.
Yeah. No, we talked about that over on the round table earlier today, and we were basically saying the exact same thing.
Oh, I get so pissed off.
Oh my God, yes.
Stop telling me to be nice to these people. They are elected officials. If you are a grown-ass adult and you ran for office, you better expect to be held accountable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Whatever happened to, power demands nothing, or power
concedes nothing without
demand.
Yeah.
We need to be making the demand.
No.
How are you supposed to make the demand? Okay, Emma Vigeland, Emma Kasparian, tell me, what is the civil and respectable way to make a demand?
You got to write a letter.
Oh my God. If I hear another strongly worded letter, I'm going to have a hissy fit. I really am.
I mean, listen, lots of people are about to be evicted. Everybody's losing their jobs. We're in like an economic crisis. We can't get healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. There's all kinds of wars going on. Our president's bombing countries illegally. We're trying to overthrow democratically elected leaders. But let's just be nicer. I'm sure if we're just nicer, things will be fine. It'll be fine, you guys. There's no need for urgency. There's no crisis. You have nothing to be pissed off about. Why are you so pissed off? I don't understand. Really? You don't understand why I'm pissed off? Why aren't you pissed off? I'm pissed.
If you're not
There's
angry,
reason.
if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Jesus Christ. I don't know why I have to explain this to people.
Seriously, we should be angry.
Everybody should be pissed off.
We should be on their doorsteps day and night until they actually cave to our demands.
Yes.
This is why, that's why I believe in a general strike.
If you actually want change, yes, that's what you need to do. That's how you get change. Like, you don't get change by being nice.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
Yeah, this is a good question. What are your thoughts that in speaking up, you may have NSA eyes on you?
I'm on so many lists. I'm sure of it. It's okay. It sucks. And I'm not going to lie. Like, it is scary. It's scary to think about, but what am I supposed to do? Not say anything, not speak out. I can't do that. So, I mean,
we know with like Ryan Wentz from Soapbox and, Left Bitches. I don't know what happened to Left Bitches. I think they shut down.
Yeah, I haven't seen an episode for a while.
Yeah. But so we know that Ryan Wentz, he made a very, very subtle criticism of AOC. And someone else made a comment on his thread. And the Capitol Police sent Chip after him. They sent him to his house. They found him. And they sent Chip to his house. Like, that is where we are, you guys, that they are watching us. This is why.
Oh, Meg, we lost your audio. Oh, no, you came back. You came back. Came back.
But this is why Edward Snowden spoke out, because he knew that they were watching us. I mean, they're watching us right now. Like, this is
that was just released again about Pegasus, which is another spyware device that they can just put on your phone whenever they want, just whenever they want. And that's not even the worst one. Whitney Webb has been covering, I think it's called Toka, maybe. God damn it. I'm so bad at remembering names of stuff. I think it's Toka though. But there's like all kinds of these programs where they can just install. I mean, Vault 7, WikiLeaks exposed that they can spy on you from your smart TV. I mean, this is where we're at. Listen, it doesn't matter. Like, if I speak out or not, they're still going, they have every text, every phone call, every email that I send. They store them. Like, they have them. That's not hyperbolic. That's what they do. It doesn't matter how many times Clapper lies to Congress. That's what they do. They're spying on all of us. And so, I mean, I can't not speak out against that stuff. And it's not, that's not big upping myself. Like, I'm somebody that they have to worry about. Because I'm not in any way on that level of importance. But they're watching all of us, really. I mean, if you even exist, that they're really spying on all of us to some, like, all the time. I mean, it's going cashless. They want to be able to track all of your purchases. They spy on you on like Facebook. Do you have any idea what Facebook does with your data, y'all? You need get off Facebook. Facebook. I mean, and Julian Assange warned us about that in 2014. He said, Facebook, there's a famous quote, Facebook is the worst spy device of all time, something. I'm butchering it. But he was right then. And they've only gotten more effective at what they do. It's not good. They're spying on all of us. They know everything about you.
What's crazy is the other day I was on Facebook and I was trying to create an ad that way I could get a little more views on the fact that I had more podcast platforms carrying my podcast. And so I go in last night and to look to see how that ad did, and it said that after a certain point my ad became disabled, and because they didn't believe my identity, because my ad, because it was a feminist podcast, it was a social issue or an election or something like that. So they needed my driver's license or some other form of ID to prove who I am. So that way I could put that ad out there. I was like, why do you need my ID in order for me to have an ad for a podcast?
They want all your data.
Right?
Data is currency right now. And it is like the currency right now. Data is everything right now, and they have all of it. They have all of your stuff. And that's what it pisses me off, because we have it all backwards. Like, here's the way that things should work. The people should have privacy. We should have across the board privacy, laws to protect our privacy, all of those things. The people in power should have next to none. Next to none. Full transparency. They should be held. You should side-eye those fuckers all day, every day. Everything that they do, every move that they make, every vote, every bill, everything needs to be entirely transparent, explained to the people in like a easy to understand, like none of this adding things onto bills that make no sense. No 5,000 page bills that you give to somebody 2 hours before they have to vote on it. None of that shit happens ever again. And there's full transparency in all of your interactions with people, all of your financial dealings, all of that stuff needs to be on the table. 100% transparency. And we have that flipped. The government knows everything about you. They know what size shoe you wear. They know where your kids go to school, where you shop, your favorite gas station, all of those things. They know all of those things. And you know next to nothing about what they're doing. Next to nothing. And what you do know is bullshit. And it's spin and it's narrative and it's propaganda. And so you like it's really like manufacturing reality. And that's what they do. And it should be backwards. Like we should have access to know everything that they're doing. Absolutely.
Robin, thank you so much for the super sticker. Here's another good.
I love Robin.
Emily, my conservative uncle told me I'm very unbecoming of the girl he once knew.
I've gotten that a couple of times too.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been concerned, but like people will say that. I think it's just because I'm much louder now about stuff. I mean, I've always been kind of loud, but I was I never really I was a mutual aid person. I didn't give a shit about electoral politics. I didn't care about I ran a mutual aid group and I talk shit about politicians like I do now, but I was never like that heavily. And now I'm just much louder. You know.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I think. Oh yeah, I got Christine's super sticker already. Sorry, just trying to keep up with all these.
I can't do
keep
it.
The comments coming, guys.
Yeah,
keep the comments coming, but
I'm terrible at that.
I need to have a producer next time.
Yeah, it is like I'm terrible at like following the chat. It's hard for me.
Is it Where Pilgrim? Also, remember that Mark Zuckerberg would be nowhere fast as a businessman without the help of people like the COO, Sheryl Sandberg.
And without the help of the government.
Let's lean in. Let's lean into Facebook, guys. No.
Yeah. No, let's not do that. But yeah, and they also have had a shit ton of help from the government. Let's not play. Again, these are not private companies. Your tax dollars have helped fund like a significant amount of their business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, see, they want zero anonymity. They don't let you create email address anymore without giving a phone number.
Dude, you can't create an email address without like offering your name, birthday, address, social security number, phone number, the like blood of 3 Greek virgins. It's unbelievable. And then you have to make like 94 passwords and you know what I'm saying? Like it's it's seriously it's
insane.
And it's getting worse.
All for your protection, all for your privacy, Misty.
Yeah.
All for your privacy.
And it sucks, but that works on people. That line works on people. There are a lot of people who genuinely believe that they're spying on us for our safety. You know? Oh, well, I have nothing to hide, so why should I care? You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Like, that's not a thing that smart people say. Don't stop that. Re-examine.
Yeah. And thank you, JB.
JB!
Yes. Our Fred Hampton Leftist co-host, normalize women being louder and speaking truth to power.
I'm very loud.
For you. 100%. That's the ethos right here at the Killjoy Guide. We're all about speaking truth to power. We're not going along to get along. We're Killjoys here. We will kill your joy if it means that your joy is built off of other people's oppression. That's what this is all about. If you are holding power based on other people's oppression, and that's what your joy is based on. No.
Coming for you.
We're coming for you.
And dudes like JB will back us up. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Not that I need to be backed up most of the time.
Lila, friend of the show, Lila, you need to have tough conversations and not run away from them. 100%.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you. Oh gosh, you're such a Nazi. Why do you love Nazis? I'm so tired of hearing that.
What do you do when your liberal friends just don't get it and think you're a weirdo?
I don't really have a lot of liberal friends anymore.
I know. Because it's hard. It's hard.
Well, because they just don't a lot of liberals don't like, liberals to me, honestly, are the worst. They do not
like both of my brothers are conservatives, and I have a better time talking to them.
I have
like, one
always
of them
had
is libertarian. Like
yeah,
my
like I don't
libertarian
get
brother,
along.
I have no problem.
I don't agree with conservatives, but I feel like they're more willing to
Because they also hate the government.
yes. And so I think that like I think where there's an understanding where we have different approaches, but liberals do like they're bootlickers. Like so I think you said this on Bitch one time. There are reformers and then there are revolutionaries. And I think liberals are reformers and they will always be reformers and they do not understand revolutionaries. And that's just oil and water. I don't think those two things can ever get along.
And one of the big reason is because they're okay with the status quo. They're completely fine. They're comfortable.
They're at least okay with incrementalism. Like they're okay with increment. Like we'll like pick around the edges. And I'm never going to be satisfied with that. And people will be like, oh, well, you're expecting too much, too fast, whatever. No, we can. And AOC said this her fucking self. We can do this right now. Like we can do Medicare for all right now. There's no reason to wait for that. We can end wars right now. There's no reason to wait for that. People like, oh, it'll like really cause a lot of chaos. And okay, we already live in chaos, but at least then shit isn't getting blown up and we're not poisoning our own people. And, our own citizens can go see a doctor and maybe we should stop funding some genocides and apartheid. Maybe we should stop doing these really terrible things. It's not like this isn't negotiable. These are terrible things. We could stop doing that all over like right now. We don't have to wait. It's like those people who were like, and I think a lot of it honestly is just they're terrified of change. And I get that. But it makes me really sad that people have like gotten beat down to the point where like they've normalized this existence. It doesn't have to be this way. Human beings, for all of our faults, are pretty smart and resourceful. I think we can figure out a way to, do things better. I think we can totally do that. And what really baffles me is that it's weird to people that I expect like a world with no war or a world with like free speech and where, we just try to get along with each other. And why is that not the end goal? Like what? So we're just supposed to like accept and just deal with like chaos and war and destruction forever and never. Why can't we improve beyond that? Like but I'm considered like some crazy hippie if I say shit like that. It's like, no, why is that not the end goal for everybody? Shouldn't we want to work towards like a like more peaceful existence where we can figure out, like we could totally take care of everybody. At least on a basic level, I think. We could figure that shit out. 100%. We can make sure everybody has a house. We could do that. We could do that.
Yes.
We could do that.
We literally have 17 million empty homes in apartments in this country.
Tomorrow, everybody could have a house. And I get that, like, yeah, we have to figure out what that looks like. But okay, let's do that. Let's fucking do that. But let's give everybody a house. And let's give everybody healthcare. Like the fact that we have to fight for that shit in the year 2021 in the United States of America is beyond frustrating to me. That is beyond frustrating to me. Like, hello, you guys deserve better than this. Like, as much as I hate Americans, you guys deserve, like, we all deserve better than this. We're getting shafted on an like unbelievable level. And people just accept it. And it's really weird. I wish I could it's like I just want to shake people. Like, what is wrong with you? You should be able to go to a doctor.
I know. Right?
You should be able to go to a doctor.
Like, they're so propagandized and it's so crazy.
I know. Like,
and
that's why narrative control is the front line. Do you see now? Do you get it? Like, for anybody who didn't get it before, that's why, because you're propagandized to think against your own interests, not just vote against your own interests, to think on like a nuclear level against your own interests. You're like trained to think that your neighbor is your enemy. Your neighbor wears a $5,000 suit and sits in a boardroom. Or your enemy wears a $5,000 suit and sits in a boardroom. That's who your enemy is. Your neighbor's not. And yeah, you can have your disagreements and your differences, but we need to deal with like the actual problem, the system. Right. It's designed to kill everybody because it's killing everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like what Stephanie says here. Like, liberals are so Trump deranged, and even on the left, like so many opportunities, Jimmy Dore deranged. Like, there's no talking to them. Like, come on, it's been 8 months. And it's like, yes, Trump was a disaster. He was. We'll repeat that as many times as we have to. Trump was a disaster.
But
Yes.
he's no more disastrous than any other president. He's not like a
Absolutely.
special kind of evil. He certainly wasn't
No.
worse than Hillary Clinton. At like best, they're on the level. Like she would have just been awful in a different way. That's it. Because it doesn't matter who is president. It doesn't matter. It's the same agenda because it's not the president who makes decisions. It's corporations. They really make all the decisions. They decide. I mean, look, they picked Barack Obama's entire cabinet. Citigroup picked up Barack Obama's entire cabinet. They make those decisions. I mean,
that guy he obviously had like dictatorial tendencies. Like, you know, you wanted like parades in his honor and shit like that. But that's because he's a narcissist.
Yeah, I think it's more he's just a narcissist.
But he was too dumb to actually.
We got lucky, honestly. Honest to God, we got lucky because he was incompetent. Like no gift for subtlety.
You know what the crazy thing is? Like they said that, you know, we would have a more capable Donald Trump come along. We already have one.
It's Joe Biden. Oh, he's not really all that much more capable.
He's not.
He's just more passable. He's more marketable. Yeah. We'll call it that because he's really not more competent. He's actually probably less competent. But they hide him away enough and the media makes enough excuses for him that people don't notice that. But that's what makes him a bigger threat than Donald Trump, because I mean, look at what they've done. The Hunter Biden story, they took the New York Post off of Twitter and like, it was a sourced story. And The Intercept wouldn't let Glenn Greenwald. They wouldn't let Glenn Greenwald cover it in his own publication, in his own outlet. That's scary. Like that's when you need to worry. I mean, Trump, again, he was awful, but you know, we did get lucky because there was enough media stuff against him, which I mean, who knows, that could have been like the whole point to begin with. But yeah, and he just had no gift for subtlety. He blurted out the truth so often. I'm sure they hated that.
The time.
We're gonna take their oil.
It was hilarious.
We're gonna take their oil. You know, we're just gonna take their oil. I mean, he just would say stuff like that. And it was great. Honestly, that was great. I was like, actually, that's.
Thank you for saying the quiet part out loud. That way we all know what's going on.
And then people can't say that.
Finally, everyone knew.
Yeah, well, because I mean, like my family would be like, "That's not what we're doing in Syria." Yeah, it is. And look, that's exactly.
He literally said it.
Yeah,
he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we continue to talk about how this isn't just, you know, a problem that's happening, you know, with over there with like Julian Assange or Craig Murray or whatever. Like this impacts us just as much as anyone else, guys. Because, you know, we talked about, you know, what Facebook is doing, what Twitter's doing. Like, you can't even talk about COVID on so many platforms. You will automatically either get demonetized.
You can talk about it,
taken down.
but only if you use the approved narrative. And if the official narrative changes, you can then change. Like if like you got blocked, or if you got banned like 6 months ago for saying something, but now it's approved to talk about, then that's okay. So that should tell you something. You know, it's like the lab leak theory, which whatever, it doesn't matter what you think of the lab leak theory, but there was a time where that would get you banned from social media. And now it's fine. You can talk about it because Fauci said it. And what's his name? Jon Stewart said it on Colbert. And so now it's like an approved part of the narrative. And so now you can talk about that. But 6 months ago, that would have got you banned from Twitter. And so that should tell you something. That should frighten everybody. You shouldn't only be able to express or obtain official narratives. You should be able, and you should want to question everything. How many times have they lied to us? And how many times do they get to lie to you before your sense of skepticism kicks in? You should be skeptical about literally everything that comes out of government sources. You know, you should be extremely skeptical of all of it. They lie constantly. And it's not that we don't have like evidence for that. I mean, weapons of mass destruction, anybody? Gulf of Tonkin, anybody? I mean, they do it all the time. So it should terrify everybody that they want to have such strict control over what we're allowed to know. That's crazy.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Because the more that we buy into that propaganda, the more that they control us. The more, that's basically what it is. And it's all about control because because the more we're fighting against one another, the more that we're doing that and not paying attention to what's actually going on, then, you know, as long as we're doing that, they can just keep leeching off of us.
Yeah.
We'll keep voting for them. We'll just keep doing it without asking anything in return when we're all suffering, guys. Like, income inequality is growing. It is growing at a staggering rate. And it's absolutely insane. Like I had another thought in my head, but now it's gone.
Well, and then we
Which
have our
happens,
progressive
but-
politicians voting for things like the CARES Act, which is an unbelievably disgusting, the largest upward transfer of wealth to the 1% in human history. And nobody talks about that. And that's fucked up. That's not a thing that should happen.
Right.
And that's what,
And
like,
if you
people,
do, you're the enemy.
right. No. But people get mad when I criticize the squad. There's reason to criticize the squad. There's, all the times that they supported coups. There's the fact that they voted for Nancy Pelosi twice. Like AOC said, I'm not going to vote for her. And then she voted for her twice and forced the vote. Like that shouldn't have even been a conversation. Like they shouldn't have even been considering voting for Nancy Pelosi in the first place. So the fact that they did it without asking for anything in return and then gaslit you about committee assignments, and then they get booted from their committee assignments. So they legitimately voted for her and then like lost stuff. Like they went like in the negative, and y'all still cheer for that? What planet do we live on?
It's
like
so
what?
sad.
I don't get it, man. And I tried to be patient. Honestly, I know that this people are gonna laugh at that because I'm not very patient now. But honest to God, I was legitimately patient in 2018 with reformers. I really was. I tried very hard. I even donated to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 2018. And I tried to be like, okay, we'll give it a shot. Like we'll give it a shot. In 2016, because I've never been electoral politics really anyway. Like I said, I voted for Barack Obama in 2008, which I hate myself for. I legitimately hate myself for. I blame all the time that it was in 2008, which is when I had my first kid. So I was hormonal and emotional, and I bought into hope and change. You know what I mean? A little bit. But then like I supported Bernie in 2016, but only because I thought that like this might be our last chance to swing it back a little bit before we go off the cliff. Right. So, and so
he was a compromise candidate. He was
huge compromise for me. I mean, that's a huge compromise, but I was willing to do that. And I donated a shit ton of money to him. I canvassed, I phone banked, I volunteered. I met people who were literally skipping meals to send him money. So yeah, like I really did try to be nice at first. I was very skeptical, but I tried to play along. And I'm out of patience now. I just don't have any.
And honestly, we should all be out of patience because they've been duping us over and over and over again ever since before Biden won.
What have they done?
They sold us out.
I don't even know if it's that they sold us out because they're not like they're going to get stuff later. But they're not currently getting really a lot, at least not that we know of. There may be some stuff that we are unaware of, but like they don't take corporate money right now, but eventually they're going to get a shit ton of speaking fees and book deals and all of that stuff on the back end, which is what Barack Obama did. I mean, look at what's happening for him now. That's all back end stuff from the 8 years where he, shoveled money at the top 1%. And so now they're like, hey, thanks for helping us out. And that's kind of how that works out. So, I mean, they're going to get stuff on the back end. There's no question about it. But yeah, it's just pathetic that people are still making excuses for them. Cause I'm still, what have they done? Have they done any, like they wouldn't do force the vote, right? Because they said that $15 an hour was more doable. That's AOC's words. Doable.
Then they didn't do it.
They didn't even try. They didn't even try. Like there was no fight. There wasn't even like a tepid conversation. They like made a couple tweets and then it was just over. And that was it. And that was the fight for $15 an hour, which they like gaslit you about. And
right. And what's so funny about that too, right? What's so funny about that too is that, she made that argument, but then she turns around and while on the steps of the Capitol, she tells our fellow FHL member, Effini, tells her, she and Cori Bush did, that they didn't know about force the vote until the day before the vote.
Bullshit.
What? You were literally responding to Justin Jackson
in November.
Made that argument. You made that minimum wage argument. How do you did it just fall out of your head?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing as like right now with the eviction moratorium. Cori Bush said, well, we've been working behind the scenes for months. And then AOC said that they were caught off guard. Get your lie straight. Get your lie straight. At least get it straight. Like, don't insult our intelligence. At least get your lie straight. Which one was it? Were you caught off guard or have you been working behind the scenes for months? Because they love to tweet, right? They love to tweet. How come they haven't been tweeting about the eviction moratorium for this past month? Because there hasn't been a lot of chatter about it. So if they were working so hard behind the scenes, all you do is tweet. So where's the tweets? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They're lying to you. They're gaslighting you. Again.
Yeah.
And it's so gross because people are going to lose their houses and BlackRock's going to buy up all the houses. They're already doing it. Like, we're in trouble. And they're helping. They're 100% actively and openly working against us. And it's
right. And then, of course, as soon as we know this for a fact, because right after they extended the moratorium, Cory Bush went home. They all went home, but people stayed on the Capitol steps, and then Capitol Police came in and started kicking them out. So we know exactly what's going to happen once everybody is out in the streets fighting, because eviction moratorium again is up and people are being kicked out of their homes. Student debt is going to come back online and people aren't going to be able to pay their student debt.
That's September 30th, I think.
Yeah. Unemployment is running out. All these things are all happening right at the same time. And the second people start getting angry, guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be out in the streets. And now they're going to send the police on us saying that we're domestic violence extremists because we're fighting for our rights. So let's move on to that. I'm going to bring up, people have been talking about this a lot for the last little bit, but let's go ahead and talk about this domestic violence extremism list of people that they have here. So I'm going to zoom in here.
It's literally all the people.
Right. Basically, yeah, all Americans. So domestic violent extremists are U.S.-based actors who conduct or threaten activities. So I could say like, oh, I want to storm the Capitol, and that's considered a threat. If I were if I just say that.
Well, just pay attention as she's reading this to the vagary. It's very vague, and they get to decide. It's not us who gets to decide what all this stuff means. It's the people in power. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So who conduct or threaten activities that are dangerous to human life in violation of the criminal laws of the United States or any state. So this is not just federal, this is state as well. Appearing to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. So does that mean we're not allowed to canvass?
Or protest?
Or protest?
Anything? March? Anything? No.
And influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. And who gets to decide what coercion is? Well,
that's like if you're redressing your government, if you're protesting your government, if you're petitioning your government, does that equal coercion? Because I'm pretty sure that they could flip that around to get the people that they want to get.
Right. So like, isn't that in the Constitution that we're allowed to, petition our government?
This is what I'm talking about. With Julian Assange, this is all connected. All this shit's connected.
So, and influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction. So that's at anti-riot, assassination, or kidnapping, which, speaking about the kidnapping, I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard. It was FBI. The kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, that whole thing was a psyop. It was a psyop. It was FBI informants who, there were actually people who kind of, there were
12 FBI informants and 6 defendants. So there are 6 guys, who they completely manipulated. And that's not to excuse, you should never be willing to let yourself be led down that path, because it's probably a psyop. You're probably getting fucked by a Fed. You know what I'm saying? Be smarter than that.
It's entrapment.
Yes, that's exactly it's 100% entrapment. That's how they do it. But yes, the whole thing, that was Fed operated. I mean, surprise, surprise. Some of us have been calling that since it happened.
Yeah. So assassination, kidnapping, as per the definition of domestic terrorism, mere this wording right here, mere advocacy of political or social positions, political activism, use of strong rhetoric, or generalized philosophic embrace of violent tactics may not constitute violent extremism. It may be constitutionally okay. Well, at least they'll give us that little bit.
All that
oh
is.
Gosh,
that is that's.
Obviously, I'm being sarcastic.
No, yeah, but because people would be like, yeah, but see, they're saying that mere advocacy of political or social positions, just activism, that's not going to count. The whole reason they put that in there is because it's going to count.
It is.
That's because that's just them. That's legalese. It may be constitutionally. That's what I'm saying. There's the whole vagary. It's all very vague. It's all very carefully worded. And it's all really just constructing a narrative.
Right. Well, the majority of DVEs fall into one threat category. Some draw upon or inspired by ideological themes found in other threat categories. So we have racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists. So DVEs with ideological agendas derived from bias, often related to race or ethnicity. So that's, that's your category for, white supremacists. Okay, so we got white supremacists. Animal rights and environmental violent extremists. So that would be our friends who are water protectors.
The Line 3 protester, DAPL protesters, Keystone protesters.
Or even like PETA. You could probably put PETA under here. Like DVEs seeking to end or mitigate perceived cruelty, harm, or exploitation of animals, or perceived exploitation or destruction of natural resources and the environment. So we are criminalizing water protectors and other environmental activists.
Look at the wording of that too, though. Perceived exploitation. Mm-hmm. Perceived.
Exactly.
Like, no, it's not perceived. That's real life. They're destroying the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know, like, it's a thing that's happening. Again, Colonial Pipeline, largest gas spill, one of the largest gas spills in United States history. That's the thing that happened. There's no punishment for that. But we could, for protesting against that, we could be considered a DVE.
Terrorist.
Yeah.
You're an eco-terrorist.
Yeah. Makes total sense. This is really logical.
Now, this one definitely, like, all these things are intersectional, guys, but this one is specifically for, reproductive rights. So DVEs with ideological agendas in support of pro-life or pro-choice beliefs.
Everybody.
So you are equating women who want to protect their own bodies with people who kill abortion providers, people who go in, the guy who went into a Planned Parenthood with a gun. You're equating pro-life activists to that guy. You're equating that to pro-lifers who will bomb abortion clinics. Like, is this what's happening here? You're equating those two things? I don't think so.
They are, though. That's what they're doing.
That's insane.
That's what they're doing.
Insanity to me. Okay, so back up to the top. Anti-government / anti-authority. Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists. DVEs with ideological agendas derived from anti-government or anti-authority sentiment, including opposition to perceived, keyword here, perceived economic, social, or racial hierarchies. So basically, there goes socialism, there goes feminism, there goes anti-racism.
All the things. It's all the things. Police brutality, education, racial justice. If you're against any of those things,
you're now a domestic violence extremist.
Yeah.
Or perceived government overreach, negligence, or illegitimacy. So let me ask a question: is whenever the March for Medicare for All on Saturday, they are submitting papers to the UN to declare human rights violations against that the United States has committed human rights violations against the people because they've denied us health care. Is this going to be considered anti-government extremism?
Yes. Or like, okay, the illegitimacy. So that means election integrity. So if you're an election integrity activist, that means that's you, DVE. Welcome to the club.
Oh, so then that means we can't fight against the Democrats, going to a smoke-filled room and deciding who they get to choose as candidates.
Like all the election integrity issues. Because listen, I'm so tired of this. I'm going to rant for just one quick second. But y'all, our elections are garbage. I don't care what you think of Donald Trump or if you think that it was stolen or not stolen. I don't care. If the election happened in the United States of America, it was trash. It was a trash election. It's not legitimate. Period. End of story. Our government or our elections consistently ranked dead last among Western democracies in election integrity. That's not like, again, not a conspiracy theory. That's real life. Like, we have the worst elections on earth. We have proprietary software. We have no ability to audit. Your elections are garbage. Like, can we stop pretending like that's not a thing? I don't care if you hated Donald Trump. I don't care. You should be questioning all of our elections, every single one of them. Nina Turner should challenge her election results. Like, they're all garbage. Every last one of our elections.
Because they've even shown this, like, there was a something going out like right after the primaries that showed all of the exit polling. The exit polling was so off from
in 2020. They stopped doing them. They're like, it's so off, we're just going to quit doing that and like quietly, nobody talk about it.
Which, if this was another country, they would be overthrowing us.
Right?
Because
That's-
of
I
our
keep
election.
asking when's somebody going to come and like overthrow our democracy and like because we're fucking it all up. Like it's amazing.
Right. Where's our nation building project?
That's what drives me nuts when these progressives are like, yeah, you know, Maduro, he's such an evil dictator and we really need to, they don't have legit, their elections are far better than ours. It's not even close. It's not even
Or
close.
Cuba.
Yes, or Cuba, or any number of, especially global South countries. But Jesus Christ, like I'm so tired of the hypocrisy, and it comes from a lot of progressives. Like AOC loves her some regime change and some coups. Like she loves that shit.
Or even Bolivia, like whenever they had the whole thing with against Evo Morales, like that whole thing was a lie. The OAS, which is U.S. controlled, was a lie. They created that lie in order to overthrow Evo Morales. That way they could go in and get the lithium in
so
that
we
country.
can't like we fuck up our own elections, but then we also fuck up all of the other elections around the globe, and then we bitch about Russia. But Russia, fuck off, man.
Oh my
Some
God.
memes about masturbating with Jesus was no match for Hillary Clinton. Let me just tell you that, okay? Just stop it. I'm so tired of it. I mean, we have no, seriously, it's like with the Assange stuff. Like we want to go after Azerbaijan for the way they treat journalists. We want to go after other countries for the way they run their elections. How about we clean our house first?
Yeah, we have no room to talk whatsoever.
No.
Okay.
It's like the United States of hypocrisy. Human rights abuse is the same thing. Same thing.
Oh my God.
China is such a terrible human rights abuser. Are you kidding me? We're poisoning the people of Flint still. Like we know that that's happening. Nobody's gone to jail. We're still poisoning them, and they're far from the only place where that's happening. It's happening all across the country in poor Black neighborhoods.
But you know, Nestle, they're making bank on it. Yeah. So what are we supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, we can't hold power to account. We got to be nice, Meg. We have to be nice.
Oh, that's right. Holding them accountable is violence, guys.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that.
I'm sure that if we're just nice to the governor of Flint, then he'll fix the water, right? I'm sure that's a thing that's going to happen, right?
Oh, yeah. You know, we got to coddle them into submission, guys.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the rule. Or so militia, violent extremists, so DVEs who take overt steps to violently resist or facilitate the overthrow of the U.S. government in support of their belief that the U.S. government is purposely exceeding its constitutional authority. It is trying to establish a totalitarian regime. Who the fuck is trying to establish a totalitarian regime, guys? Who?
We already
have one.
We already have one. It already exists right now. We're living in it.
We literally live in a fascist state, guys.
Yes. It's like, again, people keep talking about fighting fascism. Well, you're a little late to that party.
Exactly.
You're a little late, and you're a little late to that party. It's already here.
Right. So oppose many federal and state laws and regulations, particularly those related to firearms ownership.
So they're going to take your guns. They're going to privatize cops. Here we go.
Oh, Lord. Anarchists, of course, anarchists. We love ourselves some anarchists. Anarchists, violent extremists, DVEs who oppose all forms of capitalism. That's me. Corporate globalism, me. Governing institutions, somewhat me, which are perceived as harmful to society.
That's
me.
all of them. Really? Of course I'm going to oppose the ones that are perceived to be harmful to society. Yes. Isn't that kind of my duty as like a human being? If I see something is, harmful to society, shouldn't I fight against that?
Right. What was it exactly in the Declaration of Independence that Jefferson wrote about that? Every now and again, the people, they reserve the right that when they see tyranny in their government to be able to overthrow that government.
Yeah.
Jefferson gave us that. So
it's like a duty.
Against that. That is our duty as Americans.
Which is so corny. I get it. Like, I'm not patriotic in any way. I think it's weird to like be proud of where you were born because I had absolutely nothing to do with that. I didn't earn that. Like, it's like weird. Like when people are like, when like you're, I don't know. It's like I didn't choose.
Okay. I mean, I'll say this one thing. I am proud to have been born in Canada because that saved my life.
Okay, that's fair. But like, that's just very weird to me. But yeah, but like this whole like it's not even just like it's your duty as an American. It's your duty as like a human being. If you see a system or an institution that is unjust and is causing harm or damage to society, you should speak against that. I mean, that's just a thing that you should do, and they're trying to criminalize that.
Exactly. More
Not
and
just
more.
criminalize it, label it as extremism.
Mm-hmm. And so sovereign citizen violent extremists, DVEs who believe that they are immune from government authority and laws. So Donald Trump.
Or any elected official,
Or
any
any elected
person in
official,
position of power.
'cause
I mean,
they-
the pharmaceutical companies who have liability against any damages that the vaccines may cause, like that's, does that apply to them? No, of course not.
all even 2008, all the people that, you know, threw people out of their homes. Like,
Right.
Are we kidding? Like
One West Bank.
They believe they're immune from government authority and laws.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we not arresting all of them?
Because they are immune.
Oh.
It's rules for thee and not for me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. So all other domestic terrorism threats.
So this is the
DVEs.
category where, like, if you didn't fit anywhere else, this is like everybody else.
So DVEs with ideological agendas that are not otherwise defined under one of the other domestic terrorism threat categories, including a combination of personal grievances and beliefs with potential bias related to religion, gender, or sexual orientation.
Do you see how vague that is? Okay, let's read it again. DVEs with ideological agendas that are not otherwise defined under one of the other domestic terrorism threat categories. Here's my favorite part, including a combination of personal grievances and beliefs with potential bias related to religion, gender, or sexual orientation. So that's incredibly vague. What the fuck does that mean? Like, does that mean that if I go after the Catholic Church for being a bunch of pedophile protecting freaks, that I could be a domestic violent extremist? Yes, probably. But are they going to be labeled domestic violent extremists as priests that like get away with molesting children? No, probably not. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's they get to define what these all mean. They get to define who it applies to. It's going to be selectively applied. This is not good for anybody.
No, not at all. And this is why we keep saying, guys, why freedom of speech is so goddamn important, because they're targeting us. This is not a conspiracy theory. They are, in fact, targeting us, and they want to keep us quiet. And that's why we need to be killjoys. We need to be willing to speak truth to power. We need to be able to say, no, we're not going along to get along. Your happiness, your bliss is built off of our oppression, our exploitation. So no, we're not going to stay quiet about that. We will kill your joy. You know, that's what it all comes down to. That's what makes me a killjoy. That's what makes you a killjoy. That's what makes all of you guys killjoys. That's why we're all here. This is a killjoy revolution, and we need to be fighting back.
And don't be afraid of these fuckers. Like, I think a lot of people, which is why I think what like Max Blumenthal and Franco did at the Capitol is so like, and what Kobe did at the March for Medicare for All. Yes, speak out. Don't be afraid. Listen, and it's going to be scary because like what Franco faced, there were 100 people there that he knew were going to be against him when he spoke out. Like, he knew these were all squad stands. Most of them were staffers. So he knew that he was going to be like the lone soldier out there. But that's what we have to do. We have to be willing to push these people and hold them accountable and make them answer questions. They get pissed off like their staff steps in to shield them from questions about healthcare. They ran on this shit. They should have easy answers for that. Like, that shouldn't even be like a thing that's an issue. It shouldn't be like, oh, she can't answer that question. Why can't she answer that question? She ran on Medicare for All. It's directly related to what's happening with the eviction moratorium. All of these things are like, people act like these issues happen in a vacuum. They don't. They're all interconnected. If people had healthcare, they would be less likely to be evicted from their house because they wouldn't have to worry about healthcare bills. And if people get evicted and they're also going to lose their health, like, it's all intertwined. All of these issues are intertwined. And so and just the fact that they're afraid to answer like the most basic of questions. Why did you guys not band together to withhold your vote from Nancy Pelosi to get a floor vote on Medicare for All? You should have an answer for that. And you should be able to explain yourself, and you should be able to justify why not making that move at what's probably the most opportune moment in history ever. That we couldn't have written a better moment. We're in the middle of a global pandemic.
It was
everybody,
perfect.
yes, everybody wants healthcare. Everybody's worried about healthcare. Everybody is like desperate. Like, what is it? Like 67% of or what it's like 80% of like the country or of Democrats, 67% of the country, and like 51% of Democrats or of Republicans. Like it has the support. It has the support. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's like the most opportune moment in like the history of everdom. We're coming off of like the Bernie thing where he like talked about Medicare for all and all that. Like it was a magnificent moment, and they like wouldn't even almost attempt it. And that's just mind-boggling to me that they're willing to push that down the road. And I don't even care like what you think of force the vote as like a strategy. We should be willing to do whatever. Like let's do it. If it's an idea, and you cannot like, no, we're not going to do that because maybe it won't work. Well, what if it does? We can't, like, there's no more waiting. I'm tired of people telling us to like wait. Fuck off with your wait. 67,000 people die in the United States, and that's like a lowball estimate from lack of healthcare. And you're telling people to wait, and then telling me to be nice? Fuck out of here. Nope, that's not gonna happen.
No, 100%. And Stephanie, thank you for that super sticker. I saw that. Thank you so much. But yeah, so let me read this real quick. So it was, let me bring it back up. So it was like, what was the point? LOL. They refused force the vote for $15 minimum wage and didn't even follow through with $15 minimum wage. 100%. Yeah. Like, they had the opportunity. Like, they're not fighters. And that's the sad part about this whole thing, because we sent them to Congress to be fighters. That was the entire point of Justice Democrats, is to be the left Tea Party.
And we should be clear that, like, you saying that they were supposed to be the Tea Party, they were, like, if you remember, a lot of people forget this, but in 2018, their whole shtick was, we're going to go to Congress and fight the Democratic establishment.
Exactly.
Not Republicans. Not, we're going to talk about Republicans 24 hours a day. We're going to get into fights with Marjorie Taylor Greene and ignore Nancy Pelosi's insider trading and corruption, and the fact that we can't get Medicare for all, and the fact that they control the House and the Senate and the White House, and we still can't get a goddamn thing done. We're not going to talk about that, though. We're going to talk about how, you know, mean, what's her fucking name? Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is it Taylor Greene? I'm so bad at names. Right. Yeah, but like, it really, we don't have time for that shit. Like, the whole point was to go fight the Democratic establishment. And you're not doing that. Like, not even close. Like, you're calling her Auntie Nancy and Mama Bear and, you know, acquiescing to everything that she asks of you and capitulating at every turn. At every turn, you back down. Like, you haven't, again, what have they done? What have they done that they said that they were going to do? Nothing. I mean, they tweet. They're really good at platitudes and dramatic speeches and strongly worded letters, but they aren't doing shit.
Letters.
Seriously, I'm so done with this show.
Oh my god.
I'm so fucking done.
Yes. But I mean, you're absolutely right, because that's exactly what the point of them was to take down, like, what was it that, you know, Jinx said when he and Kyle first came up with Justice Democrats? Like, oh, it's a ghost ship. We're going to, you know, we're going to take it over. And like, well, clearly those ghosts are pretty strong. Right? Because like the whole, like, it's just so
they won't even say
so
Nancy Pelosi's name in a critical way. Like, they don't criticize her at all. Are you joking me? Like, that's what we're doing with our time in Congress. Like, where's the ruckus? Like, where is that? Because that's what pisses me off. It's like, they ran on this thing. All these promises and these big, you know, we're going to do this. We're going to go, we can do this right now. We're going to go in there. We're going to fight all of these things. They're not doing it. And then people are mad at us for being upset about the fact that they took millions of dollars from hardworking Americans, promising that they were going to go fight for them, and are now not fighting for them. Yes, I'm pissed off about that. And I'm suspect of anybody who's not pissed off about that.
No, I 100% agree, because we didn't send them there to fight against Republicans. Like, we already know Republicans are the bad guys. We know that the Republicans are our enemy. Like, they're the ones coming at us with a knife from the front.
Republicans didn't promise me shit.
I know, exactly. They are
not a damn thing.
They're already ready to knife us all. They want to kill us all. I
know exactly who Mitch McConnell is. I know exactly. I don't need to challenge him, because I know he's an unbelievably corrupt douche canoe. Like, there's no question. He didn't promise me anything. Right. I didn't donate to him. My neighbors, my friends, my comrades didn't donate to them, expecting them to fight. So I'm not worried about Mitch McConnell. I'm worried about the people who are lying and promising something that they're not doing, and taking money from people that I care about. And then giving it to corporate Democrats.
Right.
because
And
she did
so,
that.
kind of going off of that, since you're from Ohio and we just had an election in Ohio, can you tell me a little bit what exactly happened there?
For Nina in Ohio 11, I mean, just the same shit. Ohio, just electoral politics in general. At least at like a state and national level. I think there are some local stuff that you can still make an impact in. But like where I'm from, local politics is even pretty corrupt. But I think that there are still probably some spots in local, like smaller districts and stuff where you can really make a difference on like school board or ballot initiatives or whatever. But for as far as like Ohio, or the Nina Turner, Chantel Brown race goes, that's just it's what do you expect? You ran as a Democrat. What did you think they were going to do? I mean, did you think that you called Joe Biden a bowl of shit or something? Not that matters, because people keep saying that that's why she lost. Kamala Harris called him a racist, and she's vice president. So that's not really a thing that they care about. But yeah, Chantel Brown is like AIPAC loves her. She's like the quintessential establishment Democrat. She's a corporate person. And I'm no fan of Nina Turner, but they're not going to let Nina Turner win running as a Democrat. And she knows that. The fact that people are still pretending like the Democratic Party is like a legitimate, viable option, that's not a thing. They're not going to ever let.
And that's one of the things that, you know, people keep on bringing up is even with the Democratic primary with Bernie Sanders, like the biggest challenge that he was always going to have, and the biggest challenge that Nina was ever going to have, is getting through with the primary, because the Democrats don't like, you know, progressive candidates. They don't. Like in most cases, if people are registered as Democrats, like I'm registered as a Democrat in Florida, but only because if I'm not, I can't vote in the primaries. Which even so, like it seems kind of worthless to be voting in the primaries, because they're all corrupt too. It's like, okay, so which half bowl of shit am I voting for on this, you know, primary ballot? Because no one's worth really voting for. And it's crazy because at the March of Medicare for All, only one of our speakers was not running for some political seat. They were either running for a local office, or and those were the ones I was fine with, and they were the Green candidates. Listen, who?
Sorry, we lost your audio for a second again. Go ahead. You came back in.
So, we had Alan Grayson who's running for Senate. We had Alan Ellison who's running for Senate. And Alan Ellison is from my district. He ran for Congress in my district in 2018. So, and he ran on access to healthcare there. So for him to now show up in a Medicare for All march, I don't trust that guy one little bit. Not one little bit.
California had that problem too. They had a lot of legit anti-Medicare for All candidates there. Or at least people who had previously been kind of anti-Medicare for All. But
now it's it's a seller. They can, that's a marketing tool for them. That's all it is. They don't give a shit about actually. That's why, all this idea about we have to get more co-sponsors. Being a co-sponsor means jack shit if they're not actually voting on the goddamn bill.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren was a co-sponsor. Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor. I mean, it's really easy to co-sponsor something, y'all. That's not a commitment to anything at all.
Exactly.
But as far as the whole Chantel Brown and Nina Turner thing, I am not an electoral politics person, and this is exactly why. It does not matter. You're never going to be able to vote your way out of this. The system is completely corrupted. They're never going to allow a shift in power enough that we can ever get substantive change, because we've seen what happens. The squad got elected and they were completely co-opted with it. It took no time at all. None whatsoever. I mean, within a week,
but they were mentally tortured.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter how they got absorbed into the system. What matters is that they're now absorbed into the system, which means they're not going to fight for you, which means it doesn't matter how many of them you get elected, because once you get a couple more elected, the ones who you already got elected, well, they're already co-opted. So it's just now the two, you're starting over. You now just have the two people. So it's this never ending cycle of bullshit. It's never going. And I try not to be too discouraging of people who want to run for office or because it's just a difference of tactics. So I'm not being confrontational about it, but to me, it's a giant waste of time. It is a waste of time, money, and resources, because $6 million just got spent on Nina Turner. Imagine what we could have done for that. Seriously, what would we have done for that? It's
just rental assistance.
Yeah,
for somebody.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could have been like so many things. Ohio's dealing with so many issues. Ohio's 11th district is dealing with so many issues, and $6 million were just spent on a race that it wouldn't have mattered. Like, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, yeah, Chantel Brown sucks, but Nina Turner's still not going to really fight. I mean, she'll be a better tweeter and she'll have better platitudes, but is she really going to do anything? I doubt it. And I'm not just saying that. We have a reference of like a historical reference. Like, look at it. This is what always happens. It's what always happens. And the squad is a perfect example of that. Look at Bernie Sanders. Look at Bernie Sanders, y'all. He's like
let me
a
address this real quick.
shell.
Let me address this real quick. So Canada's elections are run by an independent body called the Elections Canada. The US should have an independent body as well. The current setup is not fit for purpose. Because which is a good point, Rare Pilgrim, because I mean, who runs the elections? Is the Democrats. You know, they run their elections. The Republicans run their elections. Then you have like some kind of, and then depending on the state government. So whether you have a Democratic state or if you're in a red state, then they get to decide how your elections are run. They get to decide how many early voting days that you get. They get to decide how, which precincts are open, which voting, which polling stations are open. They get to decide, what the hours are that you're allowed to vote. They decide, whether or not you're allowed to have automatic registration or your voter ID laws. Like, they're deciding all this shit. We don't have one blanket way that every single state has to hold their elections, which we should. Yes. We should have just one way. We should have like a federal law stating, okay, this is how every single state should hold their elections, because if you want to decide for your state elections, those are your state elections. Federal elections should have one blanket way of how they do it.
Well, and there should be paper ballots that are publicly counted, and there should be a way to audit an election, and there should be automatic audits of elections at random.
We should have, just like where Pilgrim's saying, we should have some kind of independent board that is involved in that.
But people don't even talk about that. Like, there are people who are still fucking with electoral politics who won't even address election integrity at all and get mad at the activists who are covering it. Like, Combo Couch gets shit on the regular for bringing up election integrity, which is really weird to me. How do you expect to win an election if your elections are rigged? That doesn't make any sense. This is like if you believe in electoral politics and that's like your tactic, your like method of fighting back against the system, then you need to address election integrity first. Like, that's what are you doing? It's like having a general strike without having a mutual aid network in place. It doesn't make any sense. You're shooting yourself in the foot. It's self-sabotage of the highest order. So the fact that like we're still talking about electoral politics without addressing election integrity, I can't take those people seriously. I really can't.
Yeah,
I cannot.
And speaking of that, make sure to get your mutual aid networks going, because there are plans in place for a general strike. So make sure to get those mutual aid networks in place. But also kind of going off of that too, like, voting is definitely one way that we do speak out about things. And just like the way that they try to corrupt our elections even further with all, like, we saw what happened with Alex Morse. We saw what happened with Shahid Buttar. The fact that they weaponized, and this is something I talked about in my interview with Tara Reid, is that they weaponize, sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. They did it to Julian Assange.
They did it to Julian Assange. They weaponize these things, and in order to undermine grassroots candidates like Alex Morse, and what they did to Alex Morse was just really gross. And all that came out of what they did. I would recommend that you read up on that if you're unfamiliar with what happened with Alex Morse and Shahid Buttar. But they do this shit all the time. But then they cover up for the real predators like Andrew Cuomo
and Joe Biden.
And I mean, they're still covering up for Donald Trump. Like, as the AG is, still supporting Trump again in his case against E. Jean Carroll. Like, this is still happening. Like, they are protecting actual predators, even Epstein, Weinstein. Hillary Clinton tried to protect Weinstein from Ronan Farrow.
Yes.
She loves to say,
Bill Clinton.
But none of us could have possibly have known.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm some chick in Ohio, and I knew that Weinstein was a sleazeball. It's been like very well talked about and rumored for a long ass time. Like, I've heard those rumors. So if I'm just some chick in Ohio, Hillary Clinton, who's friends with the guy, certainly knew what was going down. There's no question.
Right. Like all that is so incestual. Like you knew. Like everyone in like the fact that Rose McGowan told Ben Affleck and Ben Affleck was like, oh, I told that guy, I told him to knock that off. Like, what? You like everybody knew. This was an open secret. Like, there's no way she didn't know. She covered up for her husband. Like, these are not good people. They're willing to cover up. Like, did Kamala Harris say anything about Tara Reid? Did Kirsten Gillibrand, who got Alan Franken fired,
has AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or Ayanna Pressley or Elizabeth Warren or Ro Khanna or any of these people who care to claim about victims? Has Alyssa Milano come to her defense? No, she sat outside the Brett Kavanaugh hearing crying with her little Believe Women sign. But then Tara Reid comes along and all of a sudden that goes out the window. If your belief in sexual assault survivors is dependent upon their political party, you need help. Like, you should seek you some help.
And this is something that is so important to me because, like, as a survivor myself and for my master's degree, I wrote my entire thesis about Me Too. That was my entire thesis and the history of speak out movements and how this was another iteration of a speak out movement just online. So speaking out is something that's very important to me, and that is a form of free speech. We should be able to speak out about our experiences. And that's another reason why freedom of speech is a feminist issue, guys, is that we need to be able to speak out. But when we have these organizations that are covering up actual predators, you are in violation of people's free speech.
Yes. And
this
listen,
is what's happening.
This is like, I may take some shit for this and I've said it before and I've taken some shit for it, but I'm not a believe all women person. And it's because of what happened to Shahid Buttar and Julian Assange and Alex Morse. You know what I mean? Like, this is a thing that is used as a political weapon. And so I think it has to be taken at a case by case level for those reasons alone. I think that you should start off at we should assume that the person is telling the truth, but I think we should always be open-minded to being proven wrong, like with Shahid Buttar or with, Julian Assange. So I'm not a believe all women kind of person, but I think that every single person who makes a claim like that deserves to be heard. And we need to deal with that in like a very rational and adult way. Like, they need to have their story be able to be heard. We need to have there's a way to go about that where we can make sure that we're doing the best that we can to get to the truth and to figure out what's going on. And then but we don't even have like the same standards. Like I said before, like if you're Christine Blasey Ford, then you're taken seriously. If you're Tara Reid, then you're not. And that's a problem. Like, it shouldn't be where your political party or who you're accusing is that depends on whether or not people will believe you.
And of course, the other thing that also was effective in that, and we can talk about Anita Hill with it in this regard as well, is class and race. Because Anita Hill, honestly, she was not taken that seriously.
No.
Tara Reid, because of her race. Tara Reid, because of her class. Because of her class, where she was in the strata, she was not taken seriously.
Yeah. Christine Blasey Ford is like a lawyer, and she's wealthy, and she's of a certain level of she
was from the club.
She's a part of the club. So immediately she's believed without question. But that's just that's just the way that they politicize and use this as, which is disgusting because that just makes it more difficult for legitimate survivors. And it sucks that you can't just say, I believe all women. But because it is used as such a political weapon, I mean, they were going to do it against Bernie. There was the people, I think it was on Facebook, where they were like, I'm going to, all it would take would be like, 8 to 12 of us who just came out and said that he had touched us inappropriately.
The K-hivers.
Yeah.
K-hivers.
Yeah. I think her name's like Ellen Fabe or whatever. I have the screenshot, but like they were going to do it against Bernie. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Even to a certain extent, Elizabeth Warren did do it to Bernie Sanders.
Calling him a sexist.
Like I'm sorry, but even obviously that event happened. Like, even Bernie said, okay, yeah, that event happened. That's not what I said. Which, and she did not come. She just kind of kept saying she was very, obvious. I'm trying to think of the right word. Obfuscative. I don't think that's a word.
I don't think it's a word, but I like it. We should make it a word. Obfuscative. I like it, actually. But yeah, I get what you mean.
But she why can't I think of the
obfuscated her point?
Yes. I think that's the word I'm trying to think of. But the fact that she would not say, like, she would always question, like, okay, Bernie says that he didn't say that. What did he say? And she would not answer the damn question, which shows me, like, okay, so this
She's
was
lying.
just you weaponizing that moment. I'm sure what Bernie said, what he said, I'm sure that was probably correct. All right, thank you, Black in the Empire, for that super chat. Thank you so much. Hello, hello, Black in the Empire.
I love that guy. Sometimes I think we share a brain.
Yeah, obfuscate. Thank you, Bill Bradley. That's the word I was looking for. Obfuscate.
Yeah.
But like, she would not come forward and just say what the hell was said. And the whole reason she brought it up is because she was going down in the polls. Bernie was on the rise. She was falling behind. Bernie was on the rise. So she had to cut him out at the knees. That's what the whole thing. And a lot of people are bringing up too.
Thanks, Christopher.
I definitely agree with that. Like, I'm definitely someone who I
take shit for that all the time.
I believe women, absolutely. But definitely, if it comes, because only 2 to 8% of women who come forward with false accusations. Only 2 to 8%. So I try to give women as much of a benefit of the doubt as humanly possible.
I just think that it's the rhetoric of believe all women is dangerous. Like using that as a slogan and making it that if you don't believe women, then somehow you're a bad person. I think that that's a very dangerous piece of propaganda to put out there. You know what I mean? Just the very direct, like, there's no gray area. Like, no, we have to believe all women. Well, I don't, because I've seen what happened to Julian Assange. I don't believe all women.
I think that is a fair point. And a lot of people are even bringing up, Anna Kasparian, who, like, I'm not going to say that it was obviously Jimmy, he told the story. We know what happened.
Well, we don't know what happened. We know what each of them have said, and there's all kinds of different stories about it. But frankly, it doesn't matter, because she is on video numerous times creating an environment where that was normalized. That what Jimmy said that he said, or even what, like, her version of something about how her legs were sexy, that's nothing in comparison of posting revenge porn on your website. If that's the environment you've created as the boss, you don't. It's hard for me to feel bad for you at that point. It really is.
Right. And like, regardless of all of that, if that is in fact what happened, he apologized for making her uncomfortable and embarrassing her. How many men do you know who actually do those types of things? Apologize for it. He obviously
I've never had a guy apologize for anything like that.
Never.
Not one time.
But the fact that she then used that event later on that he apologized for, and that clearly she was
weaponizing it
and blackmailed Jimmy in order to shut him up because he was criticizing her journalism. He wasn't criticizing her, looks or anything like that. He wasn't being a sexist asshole. He was criticizing her journalism and the fact that she was smearing Aaron Mate.
That's the thing. Is
if she would have Aaron Mate.
If she would have addressed his actual criticisms, okay, fine. But to like bring up this event that happened supposedly
nothing to do with anything,
right? It's just, and it was legitimate. Like Jing tried to say it wasn't blackmail because no money, like there was no like, you better give me some money or I'm gonna shut you up or whatever. That's not the only way that you can blackmail somebody. You can totally.
The argument was shut up.
Or I'm going to out you for like being, and listen, accusations of sexual assault or harassment are incredibly difficult to defend against because it is such an emotionally driven issue. And because so many people believe women, people just have this like viral reaction. That's really difficult. And it can like tarnish you forever. Like there can be like you could literally ruin somebody's life. And so the fact that she's bringing that back up 7 years later in order to shut him up because he's criticizing her journalism, her fundraising practices, the smears against anti-war journalists, and like just being a McCarthyite like brat, address those issues. Like it was just, that's gross. To me, that's gross.
Right.
To me, that's offensive to women. Like you're offensive to women.
Because that's damaging to actual survivors like myself, who I didn't come forward against my attacker because like I was never going to do it because I didn't feel like people like I knew because it was in high school that people would come at me and call me a liar and call me dirty names because like there are two girls, like there was a documentary about them, Audrey and Daisy.
Yeah,
Both have
I've seen
committed
it.
suicide. Both have committed suicide.
I think
because of
it's
all the
1 year
harassment.
today. I think it's 1
Yeah.
year today for Daisy, actually.
Yeah. They
I think.
committed suicide because of all the harassment. It is damaging to women.
Yeah.
They wonder why more women don't come forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have
Like-
no love for Anna on that issue. And I know that like some people feel differently and
No.
they think that we should I have absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for somebody who weaponizes those kinds of things, uses them in the manner that she did, and to distract away from legitimate criticisms of the Young Turks.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you, Deep Moody, Purple Blues. Survivors need to be heard. Important not to break that sacred trust of one's word. 100%. We need to give survivors the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, only 2 to 8% of people who come forward accusations come forward with false accusations. Only 2 to 8%.
Mm-hmm.
That's of a very small percentage who actually come forward. Because women don't come forward because they do not believe they don't think they'll be believed.
Yeah. And especially if you're coming out against like Tara Reid coming out against a powerful person.
Absolutely.
That's all the, you know what I'm saying? Or like, yeah, I mean,
that's not easy, guys.
No, Anita Hill. Like, why am I blanking on her name? Dear God. Monica Lewinsky. Yeah.
Lindsay Boylan.
Lindsay Boylan. Yes. The Andrew Cuomo stuff that's going on right now. I mean, it's not an easy thing. So that's why, it's difficult
Right.
because it can be used as a political weapon, but there's also an active effort to protect powerful people. So, I mean, that's why I think that we have to try to remain, and it's difficult because it is an emotional issue. Like it's really hard for people to maintain rationality around these issues, especially if you are a survivor. And I think it tends to, I think there's part of, and I think it's just human, like your lizard brain kicks off and you immediately, it's almost like it's a personal attack. It's like re-traumatizing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's exactly why we need to get out of these cults of personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like it needs to be specifically about policy. It needs to be about it, like forget people's biographies and stop getting into cult of personality. Like the personality should come second to the policy and what they're fighting for. And that's basically what it comes down to, guys. And, if there are true allegations, then we can talk about it at that time. But the fact that this is constantly weaponized, and then we have people like Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, and it's just like not only defending, but protecting.
Yeah.
People are Jen Psaki.
Yes.
Who just came out against Tara Reid saying that, her case was litigated. Her case was never litigated.
No.
She was torn to shreds.
She's still torn to shreds on a regular basis. The Washington Post, the New York Times constantly use her as clickbait and trash her, like constantly.
And that's something that Tara and I talked about during her interview. What Dave Weigel did to her.
Yeah, Dave Weigel's an epic level douche canoe.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it just continues to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Support survivors of sexual assault. Go to rain.org. Definitely. If you are someone who has suffered from sexual assault, you need to talk to someone, go to rain.org because they do have a hotline that you can talk to somebody and also find other resources. So definitely do that. I am, as a survivor myself, I am all for supporting other survivors.
Yes.
Okay.
On their level, like at their pace. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think that's like not everybody heals the same or at the same rate. You know, does that make sense?
Correct. Oh yeah, absolutely correct. Because I still get triggered sometimes. I won't lie. Even those accusations that are retracted may be true, because victims feel a lot of pressure, and some would rather claim they lied than deal with this. That is 100% true.
Yep. That's why this is such a complicated issue, because I mean, there's just so much involved.
And like, honestly, the fact that there is so much pressure on you to retract your story, to say that what you said was not true, and all the harassment that survivors get.
And I think there's a lot of
Like-
pressure to be the perfect victim.
Oh
Like,
yeah, 100%.
well, in 10th grade, I had a threesome, and what if they find out about that and they use it against me? But like you feel like I think a lot of victims are really great at finding ways of blaming themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, and I mean, like from personal experience, like I think that you'll be able to find ways to make it your own fault, and
Yeah.
that's there's a lot of pressure to be the quote unquote perfect victim.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is a good comment to actually end on is we need to expose that truth, because that's what freedom of speech is all about, guys.
Truth.
It's about it's about exposing truth. That's what free speech is about. Like, and we can easily talk about, we talked about at the beginning of the show, like free speech is not saying that like I'm a free speech absolutist. I think that people say whatever they can say, whatever they want to say, but we fight back bad talk with bad speech with good speech. There's a great book by a former head of the ACLU. It's called Hate, and that we should fight bad speech with more free speech, not censorship. We don't defeat bad speech with censorship. If we are just, because guess what? That's just going to come back to harm us.
Well, listen, you can't censor thoughts. And so people are still going to have those thoughts. They're just not going to express them. And so since they're not expressing them, nobody's combating them. Nobody's offering a different perspective. And so those thoughts remain. And they're just harbored. And instead of speaking about it and being able to effectively combat against it and show the opposite of whatever it is, or, just being able to have a conversation about why that's not great. Like racism is a perfect example. And I get pissed off at white people all the time because a lot of especially white leftists, like the pseudo leftists, they were like, oh my gosh, you're going to talk to like a Trump supporter. Why do you love Nazis? It's my job. Like I have the privilege to walk into white spaces and have those conversations with people and attempt to change minds. And I think that's, you should be doing that. And
we can't just wait for all of them to die off for
it's not going to happen. They're having kids.
Exactly. They're teaching those kids those same values.
Yes.
Like,
I didn't know if you know this, Meg, though, but if you ignore things, they go away. That's how that works. If you just ignore it, it goes away.
Oh God, you have blown my entire mind.
I know. If you just ignore racists, eventually they'll go away. It's fine. We don't have to talk to them. We don't need to maybe introduce new ideas or ways of thinking to them. That's ridiculous. Let's just ignore it. It'll go away. It's so dumb.
It is totally dumb. I agree with that. I think that's a great place to end our conversation. I could talk to you all night. Yeah, I really could. And you're definitely welcome back anytime. So before we end this discussion, where can our audience find you on the internet?
Oh Lord. Okay, so I'm on Twitter a lot at Sarcasm Stardust. So that's usually the best place to find me. I have another show called Facts on the Ground, which you can find on Rockfin and YouTube and Odyssey. I have Bitch with Comrade Misty, which is every Wednesday at 7 on YouTube. I'm going to try to get on Rockfin eventually. I said if I got to 1K subscribers, I would do it. So I did that today. So I'll probably try to do it. So yeah, and then this coming week I'm going to have Compton J on. And then maybe I had the FHL guys on last night, but I'm going to see I think they're going to come back again next week too, because I don't think Compton J wants to come by himself because he couldn't come last night. So I'm like, well, come next week. And then the week after that, I have Christina Livio coming on. And then also we have the Action for Assange vigils. We do them twice a week. We've been doing them twice a week for 110 weeks. And those are on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. and Saturday afternoons at 1 p.m. And they're fun. And well, that's not true. Sometimes they're fun. Most of the time it's heavy and it sucks and I don't like it. I mean, I do like it, but it's a lot of heavy stuff. I mean, the torturing of journalists and war crimes and special administrative measures. It's not a lot of fun, but it is informative. So I really just need I need help. I need help protecting free speech, y'all. I really do. I'm tired. I'm getting tired. I'm really getting tired. So, and it's hard because I feel it's frustrating because I feel like I'm fighting people and I can't get anybody to care, and I feel like I'm screaming into the void. So help, please.
Yes, we should all be. Yeah, we should all be truth defenders. We should all be free speech defenders, 100%. Because It is, as I said in the title, it is a feminist issue. It is a human issue.
Yes.
It is a human issue. All right. So that being said, so go check out my interview with Tara Reid. Monday we have Nerdolitics. Tomorrow both of us will be on with Savvy. So definitely look forward to that. And then next week I'll be right back here at 7:00, and I will have Esha from Historically on.
Nice.
So that should be an interesting show. All right, you guys, keep on fighting. Join the Killjoy revolution. Join the KGP, and we will see you Killjoys next time. Thank you guys so much.